Hello. It is me, Jamal, Uncle Jammy. Um, right now, just answering a couple of questions um, for Greentree Library and Adana, the main librarian there. The first question is, can you share your story behind your business and how did you get started and what inspired your lines of sauces and seasonings? And basically, what I just said, there's a lot of stuff that happened between pre-setup, and the actual starting of the business, which was on March 30th, 2015. That's the day the paperwork got filed with the state and everything became real. Um, I decided to make Area 51 sauce, way back in 2005, and that's how I got, started with concepts similar to that. I worked on a lot of early stuff in state college before I moved to Pittsburgh. So there was a lot of stuff, already in the pipeline. I had already come with a couple of concepts like the burger seasoning and the French fry seasoning, and I had started to get into barbecue sauce, even way back then. But everything accelerated when I moved to Pittsburgh in 2010, and I really decided to get serious about turning it into a business. So I spent the next 5 years, just honing my skills, doing more iterations of the barbecue sauce, and you know, perfecting my craft. And I think we made the right choice. Um, and I just really wanted to create and tinker with stuff. Dana asks, what role did the library play in helping you launch or grow your business? This is very important because not only Greentree but Carnegie Library, helped me out. The library played a really significant role. Um, and like I said, you can preface this by saying how much we did with Carnegie Library as well. I'm featured prominently on their website. But Greentree was kind of like a home library to me. That's kind of where I spent a bulk of my time, just because they have a couple of days where they're open, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I could just sit there, kind of camp out and do all my like business office work and everything like that. Um, has a very, good feel to it. The library, while not being too huge, is separated enough. Kids section is one place, adult section is another place, so you can really kind of get that kind of office feel, nice and quiet. They had the computers, they had the laptops to give out the hotspots and everything else like that, and you could still get the reference materials. Staff always friendly and everything else like that. Um, I would definitely help them get more hotspots if I had the chance. Period. This leads in right into the next question. Dana asks, how did borrowing a Wi-Fi hotspot from the library impact your ability to do research, plan, or connect during the early days of your business? Now, there's a lot that goes on with this question. The Wi-Fi hotspots are great, a good way to have internet travel with you, on the cellular network. The most important thing in the early days, um, as an entrepreneur, you don't know where you're going to be, so you need something that's going to be anywhere and everywhere. And uh, you know, events are going to be just about anywhere. Internet is a maybe, especially when I was doing events at the convention center. Internet was extra, um, so having this perk was very good. Um, but sometimes you need internet to do transactions, um, run credit cards, which have become a very big part of our business. Um, and then there's just some times where you need to whip out your laptop in places you never thought to work on um, a lot of different things. Just having internet access was crucial because you really don't know where you are in the world until you get there as an entrepreneur sometimes. Dana asks, what challenges did you face along the way, and how did having access to library resources help you overcome that? And for me, the biggest challenge, when you get started, access to space and somewhere with internet is pretty tough. You know, as an adult, you're limited to coffee shops, um, libraries, renting office space, um, after hours at work if you have something like that. Um, but you're basically trying to bridge a knowledge gap as well as a resource gap, um, and that's where places like the Greentree Library can come in. You have helpful librarians. We have all the resources there. Um, Knowledgeable people. They have the reference books, the time, the resources, the study, the studying, and the strategies to help you out. Danny also asked, now that your products are sold in a major local grocery store, what does that success mean to you, your family, and your community? Um, this one's it's a thinker because you really have to see how everything's become because it's something to think about because we went from the drawing board basically to you know being on shelves. Now that the products are sold in major local grocery stores, which I mean it's beyond your wildest dreams. Giant Eagle Market District, Fresh Time Market, Whole Foods, etc. It's hard to quantify because I always tell people, um, you know, your plans are going to change once you interact with the public, and it's like that thing in science where if you observe a particle, you can either observe a particle where it is or know its speed, but you can't know both at the same time because your observations are going to see the particle get affected. The same thing, a much more crude thing would be Mike Tyson's "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Both are very apropos. Um, I prefer the science, but I prefer everybody get the point as well. And for me, my relationship with everything, has kind of changed. My perspective has changed, all because of those sentiments right there. Um, it's a lot of these places. I was a customer, you know, um, when I started out, and now, uh, you know, I am a collaborator, a vendor. Somebody they ask me to speak at things and you know give advice out to other you know entrepreneurs. So you know there's something different about that. And this kind of goes into the other part of the question. The family. Before, it was kind of hard to get people to get on board because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I started and stopped at a lot of projects, but slowly but surely, you get family to come on board. And my situation's a little bit tougher. All my family is, you know, back in either Connecticut, um, and not really around here. I'm all out on my own in Pittsburgh, so they have to view all the success from afar. Um, I have to say, my mom's slowly gotten on board, and she makes a few random sales here and there in Connecticut, and I appreciate her so much. As far as the community goes, I try to do as much as I can. I try to go to as many of all the meetings, and just give as much feedback. Whether I'm working with the SBC, the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, the RCI, Riverside Center for Innovation, or if I work with Paramount Pursuits, um, or any of the SBDCs, like at Pitt, Chatham, anything like that. I just want to make sure, that I interact. So, uh, because I love talking and sharing, even though I don't get on and do videos all the time. I in person, if somebody stops me and asks me questions, about anything, how to get started, I will definitely talk their ear off. Um, and that makes for it's a very different feeling from when I first started. Um, people are it's real. It's tangible. People are putting the product to use in real ways and in ways I could have never thought. And it's come a long way from that. Dana asks if you could say something to somebody who supports the library through donations, what would it be? Write a larger check. Write a larger check. I mean, I am very pro. A village. It takes a village. Um, I think together we can become better. So I am all about public goods, things that that go count as public goods, like the library. I think as I get older, and you know, I I really I really long to see when we can actually put a little bit of money into things like the library, um, you know, things that I kind of wanted to see when I'm growing up. I'd rather see, much as I love sports, I'd rather see them build, you know, things for the chess club, the robotics club, um, software club, as opposed to building all these cathedral football stadiums and everything else like that. I just think, there's a better ROI having those clubs. So, if you know, if I could, turn the library into somewhere where kids are playing D&D, chess, backgammon, actually learning the games, and I know we're on a screen right now, but just kind of playing in a smart way, learning games, learning strategies, and everything else like that. I would shout it out, shout it loud, to the library board of trustees, to the taxpayers, basically to anybody who could listen. But I think really upgrading our public use and shared use facilities. It's a must. I've benefited so much, and I've tried to do everything I can, donate books, um, talk when I can, do videos like this, and just motivate people to have those kind of shared spaces. Um, Now, some of these questions, I kind of used the Dana's email to kind of generate um, what she might have also asked me, just so I could have a little bit more coverage. So I think either this one or the next one might be the last question from the original email, but we have more, so let's go through. So, what advice would you give to somebody just starting out with a big idea and limited resources? Now, this is the number one thing I always get asked. I'm kind of the go-to guy um, with the farmers market. Not because I'm lighting the world on fire or anything else like that, but I just go. I do go through to everything, and I kind of practice what I. This is the number one thing I practice what I preach on, and that is I utilize everything that costs $0, or is free. There, there probably is a distinction, like no juice and 0% juice on a label. Um, but getting back to utilizing everything that is free or $0, it's basically just get everything you can out of the free, complimentary, um, you know, courses. If you can get a free certificate in your field, do that. Because Google, Harvard. They have things like that. The University of Pittsburgh, RCI gives you certificate if you can finish their BizFit course. Now, obviously, you're going to have to spend some time, but you don't have to spend money for some of these things. Now, that is you can get free advice. You can get free advice with SCORE. There are so many avenues. I just heard Penn State has a program where their lawyers can give you some limited, legal advice. I mentioned RCI, places like Paramount Pursuits. When you're ready, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, they have a lot of free things. I think they're having a mixer, coming up in a couple of days. But they do have free things. Pitt, Duquesne, Chatham, all have free things that you can attend, and several of the libraries do as well. So that's the first thing, is to really max out all the things that are $0 and that are free. Um, uh, it helps you. There's going to be some overlap, but it's going to help you. Just even if you just meet people, it's going to help you be able to uh, get a kind of grasp on what your business can be, and over time, what what you're going to do. Okay. Coming up on here, can you describe what it was like walking into Greentree Public Library for the first time when you needed help with your business? What were you hoping to find? I think this is one of the follow-up questions I generated, but it's a good one. My first time walking into Greentree, um, you know, it was a great experience. Greentree is a nice, cozy library, um, very well laid out. Um, and it was a wonderful place to kind of sit and just get that office feel, so you could kind of brainstorm and work on ideas, as it was early on in my inception. Another question is, besides the Wi-Fi hotspot, what other library resources did you use? At all the libraries I've went to, whether it's Crafton, Greentree, Carnegie, you know, I definitely, oh, okay, sorry about that. Um, what other resources at all the other, libraries or anything else like that? Um, I make sure to use the computers, any laptops we can use, and check out. Just, I mean, it's a great resource. Um, you can get online, you can do a lot of work, connect to a lot of other resources, and, get you right where you need to be. Now, how has your business success changed your daily life or your family situation? This one's a little bit difficult to answer because, my family's off in Connecticut. My daily life, I can say, has become a little bit more regimented. We're still working on trying to get everything down to day specific things, but, like Mondays, a lot of the orders come in, and I'll get the paperwork ready for that and get everything, to come out. And then obviously, a business like this, weekends, doing like farmers markets on the weekends and stuff like that, events on the weekends, like Barrel and Flow, which is an amazing event. Whenever somebody does have like something like a mac and cheese festival or something else like another beer fest, wonderful. Um, some farmers markets are midweek. And so, there's some getting used to. But, I do carry around, my cell phone and try to get as much work, you know, done whenever I'm like a little downtime here and there. So those habits have been like that as well. What does it mean to you personally to see your products on the shelves? Uh, Not really a question um, about the library, but asking about this. But I mean, it does tie in to the end product, the end result of all the work of working in a library, and from that standpoint, I mean, it means a lot that I didn't waste my time, in Greentree and Carnegie and everything else like that. I've taken a lot of, losses in projects I've started. Um, and so um, seeing a product on the shelf, it means I stuck with something. I stuck it out. I saw it through. And it's a surreal experience, because you're in the real world. You're walking by something that didn't exist without your time and effort. And not only that, it has its fans, and you speak to them. They know a little bit about you. Have you been able to hire any employees that work with other local suppliers as you've grown? Tough question. Just because we went through the pandemic and everything else like that, so we've had employees. We went down to just me again, but we will hire people. How do you give back to the Green Tree community now that you found a little success? Green Tree's always been kind of like a second home to me. You'll see me out and about taking the bus. Some people who've seen this video will recognize me from sitting in Starbucks, that little Starbucks there. My doctor's office is in Green Tree, that kind of thing. So I am linked with Green Tree. I used to do the farmers markets, Green Tree, when I first started out. So I'm linked, and the more places I get, I you know I will be ever present in Green Tree. What was life like before you started Uncle Jammy's? What were you doing for work? This is basically just me. Um, like I said, I started a lot of projects and bounced around from a lot of stuff. My background is in the service industry, so a lot of it's restaurant, but I did work in the casinos for a little bit, and right before I started this, I was a table games dealer at the Rivers Casino. But I've done it all: Olive Garden, Eden Park, Breaker Steak and Lube, and a bunch of other smaller places. What would you say to people who might not realize how libraries support small businesses and entrepreneurs? I'm glad ChatGPT um, really created this question. Libraries are here to help people at no cost. I mean, at the point of sale or at the point of service. They help with, references, knowledge, newspapers, magazines, internet service, the hotspots, the laptop, the computers. You can do anything from interviews at the library, meetings, conference calls, conduct all sorts of business things there. It gives you a lot of options just to level up. You can do a lot of stuff in the small business realm in the library. If the library hadn't been there with these resources, where do you think you'd be today with your business? If the libraries hadn't been there, I might not have been able to get the right answers um, in a timely manner. But I'm a child of the '80s, and we had Encyclopedia Britannica. It would have taken me a little bit longer to get some of the answers, but I would have dove in. Maybe try to find some stuff at yard sales. You go the long way. What's next for Uncle Jammy's? Any new products on the horizon? This is always a loaded question for me. I will always have something, be working on something. I'm a tinkerer. That's just what I do. But right now, we're just working on finding kind of a rhythm to interact with our customers and the public at large, and to work on just increasing sales and getting like a stable, um, just a stable kind of growth. Now we've consistently built our wholesale business, so I think we'll be able to, get something going. Right now, I'm dealing with some transportation issues. I don't have a car, but and that hampers a lot of R&D work, a lot of the small stuff, pre getting everything in, um, and it hurts our in-person business as well. But right now, we're gonna focus on refresh, redoing. We're gonna redo our website to help with our online interactions. Once we get all that taken care of, there are a lot of new products that I've been working on. Stuff like a taco seasoning, a blackening seasoning. But that's not the stuff I really want to work on. I want to work on the super unique, the stuff you haven't seen, outside the box kind of thing. I mean, I think that's my wheelhouse, is the outside of the box, um, things. And then we'll obviously keep going with the hot sauce. A lot of customers asked if we're going to try fermented once we get the proper facilities, and then catering is going to evolve as well. How would you complete this sentence? Without the Greentree Public Library, I never would have been able to, and I never would have been able to, get many of the things I worked on done. But progress. I never would have had the progress that I had. I mean, I think I started going to the Greentree Library regularly in 2016, and I think progress is the right answer, because it's important. Because you have to just enable to get where you're going. You gotta take one step at a time, and progressing through all the stages. You can't make the journey easier, but you can make sure that you're always moving forward. And the last question: what would you want to tell someone who's sitting at home right now with a business idea but doesn't know where to start? I would tell them, and this is really something to have them stick with them. I would tell them to learn more about the business they want to get into, which is why libraries are amazing. They have all the knowledge there. Um, you know, and that might be learning, just might be asking questions, could even be going to work in the industry, but going to the library and looking things up, and finding out about them, finding out about other people's products and going to try them would be a great way to do it. Knowledge is power. You have to know how to master everything, and that's your starting point. And it doesn't have to take weeks, years. Um, it can happen over a weekend while working at a library, and you know, that's what I want to impress upon you. It's time in, and time to mastery that you have to worry about. So if you don't know what you're doing, try something out and see if you'd love to master it. That's all I got. Thank you so much. I just want to say, have a happy celebration to Greentree Library. Thank you guys for being there. Thank you to all the staff, all the support staff, all the volunteers, and even the families in the community. I have gotten so much out of the Greentree Library, and I hope it lasts forever. And we can expand it and to make it a huge cathedral. Thank you. Bye.